Welcome back to PhiloByts. Last week we met Socrates, the philosopher who asked questions and never wrote a word. Today we turn to his greatest student, the man who preserved those questions for eternity and built upon them one of the most breathtaking philosophical systems ever conceived. Today we explore Plato. Who was Plato? Plato was born around 428 BC into an aristocratic Athenian family. His real name was Aristocles. Plato was a nickname, possibly referring to his broad shoulders or wide forehead. He was intelligent, athletic, and destined for political life. But then he met Socrates. The encounter transformed him. Plato became Socrates' most devoted student, and after the execution of his teacher in 399 BC, his most passionate defender, shattered by the death of Socrates, whom he saw as the most just man in Athens, Plato abandoned his political ambitions and devoted himself entirely to philosophy. He eventually founded a school in Athens called the Academy, widely considered the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. It operated for nearly 900 years, and he wrote dialogues, philosophical conversations, usually featuring Socrates as the main speaker, that remain among the most influential texts in human history. The centerpiece of Platonic philosophy is the theory of forms, an idea so radical, so counterintuitive, and yet so logically compelling that it has fascinated and divided thinkers for 2,500 years. Here is the central problem Plato was trying to solve. The world we experience through our senses is constantly changing. A flower blooms and withers. A beautiful face ages. A just society becomes corrupt. Nothing in the physical world stays the same, and yet our concepts, beauty, justice, equality, goodness, seem to point to something stable, something that doesn't change. When we say that two things are equal, we seem to be measuring them against some perfect standard of equality that exists in our minds, not in the physical world. No two physical things are ever exactly equal, and yet we know what equality is. Plato's answer was the theory of forms. He proposed that beyond the world of changing physical things, there exists an eternal, unchanging realm of perfect archetypes, the forms. The form of beauty is perfect and eternal beauty itself. The form of justice is perfect justice itself. The form of the circle is the perfect circle, not any circle drawn on paper, but the idea of a circle, which every actual circle imperfectly imitates. For Plato, the physical world is like a shadow of the real world. The forms are more real than anything we can touch or see. To explain this idea, Plato created one of the most famous thought experiments in all of philosophy, the Allegory of the Cave, which appears in his masterwork, The Republic. Imagine prisoners who have been chained in a cave since birth. They face a wall. Behind them is a fire, and between the fire and the prisoners, people walk carrying objects, casting shadows on the wall. The prisoners, having never seen anything else, believe the shadows are reality. They name them, study them, predict their movements. For them, shadows are the world. Now imagine one prisoner is freed. He turns around and sees the fire, and is blinded by the light. Slowly, painfully, he adjusts. He sees the objects that were casting the shadows. He is dragged out of the cave into sunlight, where at first he can see nothing at all. But gradually he sees reflections, then trees and animals, then the sky, and finally the sun itself. This prisoner represents the philosopher. The cave represents the world of appearances. The physical world we perceive, the sunlight represents the truth, the form of the good, the highest form of all. And the journey out of the cave represents philosophical education, and the painful, liberating process of turning away from appearances toward reality. The philosopher, Plato believed, has a duty to go back into the cave and help the other prisoners. This is the foundation of Plato's political philosophy. In the Republic, arguably the most important political philosophy text ever written, Plato asks a deceptively simple question: what is justice? To answer it, he builds an ideal state from scratch. Plato argues that a just society mirrors a just soul. The soul has three parts: reason, spirit, and appetite. When reason governs spirit and appetite, the soul is just. Similarly, society should have three classes: philosophers, reason, warriors, spirit, and producers, farmers, artisans, merchants, appetite. Justice in the state means each class doing its proper function. At the head of this ideal state are the philosopher-kings, rulers chosen not for wealth or birth, but for wisdom. Plato believed that only those who have climbed out of the cave, who have seen the form of the good, are qualified to govern. power, he argued, should belong to those who don't want it, but who understand it is their duty. This vision is deeply controversial. It is hierarchical, anti-democratic. Plato was disillusioned with Athenian democracy, which had killed Socrates, and utopian. But its central insight, that good governance requires wisdom, not merely power, remains urgent. Plato also wrote one of the greatest philosophical texts on love. In the symposium, a group of Athenians take turns giving speeches in praise of Eros, the god of love. The climax of the dialogue is a speech by Socrates, who recounts the teachings of a wise woman named Diotima. Diotima describes a ladder of love. We begin by loving a beautiful body. Then we realize that the beauty in one body is the same as the beauty in another, and we learn to love beauty in general. We rise to love beautiful souls, then beautiful activities, then beautiful knowledge. Finally, at the top of the ladder, we encounter beauty itself, the form of beauty, eternal, perfect, unchanging. This is the goal of love, not just to possess a beautiful thing, but to ascend toward the source of all beauty. This vision of love as a philosophical ascent, Eros as the engine of philosophy, has profoundly shaped Western thought, art, and spirituality. Plato's influence is almost impossible to measure. The philosopher Alfred North Whitehead famously said that all of Western philosophy is but a series of footnotes to Plato. Whether or not that's entirely true, it captures something real. The questions Plato raised about the nature of reality, the good life, the just society, the immortality of the soul, the relationship between knowledge and opinion, are questions philosophy has been wrestling with ever since. His academy directly educated Aristotle, who would become one of the greatest philosophers in history. His dialogues shaped Christian theology, Renaissance humanism, and Enlightenment political thought. The Republic influenced Thomas More's Utopia, and debates about meritocracy and the role of expertise in governance continue to draw on Platonic ideas. Plato invites us to ask what is truly real. Are we, like the prisoners in the cave, mistaking shadows for substance? Are we chasing beauty and goodness in all the wrong places? In wealth, in pleasure, in social approval? When the true forms of beauty and goodness are accessible through reason and reflection? These are not merely academic questions. They are questions about how we live, what we pursue, and who we become. Thank you for watching PhiloByts. Next week, we'll meet Aristotle, Plato's most brilliant student who turned his teacher's world upside down. Don't miss it. Like, subscribe, and keep questioning.